I go to Gananda, and here's my testimony. Alright. All my life I have grown up in a church from the moment I was born. So I've always had some knowledge of God in my life. At first, growing up in a church, I really didn't know who God was, or who He was, or what it stood for. It was always a mystery for me. In 5th grade, during school one day, my stomach began to hurt. It was like in the middle of my chest, near my belly button. And so I went to the nurse and said my stomach hurts. She sent me back to class and was like, come back because it really starts hurting again. So about an hour to 2 hours later, I come back and says my stomach hurts really bad this time. So she calls my mom. Luckily, which she works at the school, she came running and was like, are you okay? And the nurse was like, you probably should take him home, he's not doing so well. So by the time I got home, I went up to the bathroom and 30 minutes later I started throwing up. Then I started throwing up for the next 9 hours. Finally, my parents called a pediatrician and was like, what should we do? She was like, his appendix probably has burst and you should rush into the ER. So we ended up driving to Strong Hospital, which was about 40 minutes away. And we were all nervous because my appendix burst and your intestines get all infected. So when we got there, I was in the emergency room in a matter of 20 minutes. So after surgery, I woke up and they said we cleaned up everything the best we could. And so not everything got cleaned up, so there was still that insurance I needed another procedure. So about like 3 days later, I started throwing up again, and they had to do another CAT scan. When the CAT scan came back, they said my intestines got infected and scar tissue had formed. This meant that I had to get another surgery right there and then. It was life-threatening because it was a risky procedure because everything was affected and they had to clean up everything this time. So after that surgery, they had to stick up a tube up my nose and it was painful because I was awake and they had to shove it up my nose and down to my stomach so it could suck up all the bile that was forming in my stomach. So I was in the hospital for 3 weeks and I finally got to get home. I lost about probably 20 to 30 pounds. I was only about 80 pounds when I came back. And at the time I weighed about 100. So after like a week being home, I invited my friend over because I was off my medication and I was really wanted to hang out with my friend. So we were upstairs just wrestling around being kids, and he spots that I have this big lump on my stomach, like right here. And so I tell my mom, and they probably said, it's a hernia and we should get that checked out. So the next day we go to the doctors. It was like, we need a CAT scan just to see what's going on. So after that, we waited 3 days for the CAT scan, and we go to the hospital to get the CAT scan, and the doctor checked up on me one last time before I went in. He puts his thumb where my hernia was and was like, there's nothing there. And it was crazy because a few nights before we went to worship and prayer night at our church, and our senior pastor Jim prayed over us and prayed that this hernia would go away and it wouldn't bother our family anymore. And that was a miracle from God when that happened. So with that happening, I really started researching more in God, like, is this God really for real? Can He really do something in my life? This started with my path with God. During that year, I started volunteering at Open Door Mission in the city with my dad and a few others from his church. I was scared only being about 11 in the city with a bunch of people that probably got convicted or homeless or do hardcore drugs. During prayer, the guy that was giving the talk, who was friends with my dad, says, come up here and pray over this guy. I really didn't know what to do because I never prayed over somebody, especially somebody that I had no idea who was. So I started praying over him and just whatever God was telling me, and he just starts breaking down crying, and it was like, everything that you prayed for is exactly what's going on in my life. It's crazy because just after I got done praying for me, he accepted God into his life. So my friend prayed over him, and that's when he accepted God into his life. After that night, I started really searching what my purpose is with God has for me. I really never found what my actual purpose was, but God gave me ideas of what I'm supposed to do with Him and how I should share His love. After a few years passed, my parents announced that they were getting a divorce, and that put me into a time of depression, and I started to shut everyone out of my life. I really didn't know how to share what was going on with my life, so I would just stay in my room, play Xbox, and not really talk to anybody and just be quiet. One day my mom suggested that I should try this youth group sing out, and I knew Mitchell at first because during elementary school we went to this camp together at Almac, and it was just a fun camp. And so I knew him, and I was like, well, yeah, sure, why not? I'll go. And when I got there, it was being soccer night, and I had a blast. I met Paul, I met a few other people, and I had a lot of fun. It was hard throughout youth group during this time. My parents were divorced, but they continued to fight with one another. It was hard because I never knew who was telling the truth. They would always say, why would I lie to you? I'm your mom, I'm your dad. I wouldn't tell nothing about the truth, but one would say one thing and one would say other, and I would just be confused at this time. This left me depressed, and I felt like I was missing out on a lot because I would spend time with them instead of my friends because I only would see them about half of the time, and only my dad on the weekends here and there. So I would miss out on a lot of time with my friends. It sucks sometimes. So my parents suggested that I should go to therapy because I wasn't really talking to them and they didn't know how to talk to me. I didn't want to go at all because I didn't really like talking to people, especially somebody that I don't know and somebody that doesn't know anything about me. And so I went a few times. It was all right, but I never really opened up to that person. So over youth group, I became friends with Emma, Jade, Morgan, and Kat in the beginning, and I really started connecting with them, telling them about stuff going on in my life, and really starting to build friendships here. And so summer is about to occur, and Paul invites me to camp. I was like, yeah, sure, I just gotta convince my parents. It's always been a struggle each year with my parents because it's money and stuff, going to youth group, but somehow it always works out, which is great. So at camp, we can't bring our phones usually, but the past year they had an exception because we wanted to get pictures of everything. But my first year when we went to camp, we went to Pinnacle. We couldn't bring our phones, which was weird because I always had my phone on me no matter what, just in case I decided to text somebody. I just like being connected with people no matter what. So we left on a Sunday night, and we didn't get back till a Thursday. We weren't allowed to bring our phones or anything. On the first night, we were in our cabins talking and sharing, just really connecting with one another. And out of nowhere, Matt and Mitchell come running in with just their boxers on and screaming and ran right out. Bob and Paul really didn't know what to do, if they should go after them or just let it be. So we just let it be. They calmed down. They calmed down and they came back in and we talked again for that night. Alright. So about Wednesday night, we were all up on the bonfire, up on top of the mountain. It was just a guys' that night. A few kids shared their testimony, and we all really connected with one another. We started sharing and sharing our struggles, and it was a great time. We started praying over one another, and that night I saw Bob just Bob by himself, and he was really just like struggling with something. So I go up to him and ask him what is going on. And he's like, I've been struggling with something. Like, I got denied from the Army because of my physical disability, and that I'm not good enough with being part of the Army and stuff. So I started praying over him, and God just started telling me that Bob, you are a son of God, you are in His army for a reason. You're not supposed to be in anybody's armies besides Him. really didn't know what his future had for him. So God just started telling me that he was going to speak in front of a huge crowd one day and just share his message with all of us and what God is in his life. So the next day, I found out that Bob was giving the speech the last day of camp. So during the last day of camp, he was out. He was by himself, just on his knees, worshiping God during worship. So I go back to him and just start praying over him, just giving him confidence and stuff. And by the time we were done, there was about 20 other boys surrounding us, just touching us. It was amazing because it was God's love circulating through each one of us that day, and just sharing the experience that each one of us had during that week of camp. It was just amazing that time. So we come back to camp, and I was set on fire with God, and I really wanted to start pursuing God more and more, but everything just hit me because my parents are still divorced, and my parents are divorced, and just all my emotions came back together. I really started becoming close with God, and he told me that God will always be by your side no matter what. I continued to pursue my relationship with God and grow deeper in my faith. After camp, I was set on fire and looking for new ways to serve God and other stuff. The summer went on and everything just stayed still with my relationship with God. I really wanted to start pursuing with it because my depression came back. I really didn't know what to do at the time. That sophomore year began, I was on the football team and I was getting really good at the sport. I was about to get pulled up for varsity and for sectionals. So during one game, I got an interception and I was running down the field. I go to plant with my left foot and my knee gives out and I get hit in the shoulder and the guy hits me in the back of the knee. And this sharp pain just went right through my knee. And the next day we went to the doctors and said I tore my ACL and meniscus. That put me out of sports for about 6 months. But it was just enough time to get back to lacrosse season, which I truly cared about. So, during April break, during that year, my mom and boyfriend went away to a different country and we had a house to ourselves. During that week, my sister decided to throw a party, and the night before that, we had a small get-together with her friends and my brother's friends. And they were drinking and smoking, and one of her friends asked me to smoke, and I was like, yeah, sure, what will one do, and what will really happen? And I was curious and dumb during that time. And I really didn't know that I would start an addiction that has basically 2 last months. So I smoked that night, and I was like, yeah, this is fun, but I really didn't care for it during that time. Alright, so after my knee surgery, my dad told me that I could get really close to God and really start pursuing Him more and more, having all this time off and where I'm just sitting down. Me being only about 14, I was like, I'm not really going to do that. I'm just going to play Xbox and watch Netflix and be an immature kid. So I started to smoke about once every 2 weeks after that night happened. It was just fun and relaxing, but there was more side effects than benefits to it. On a Sunday night during youth group, I told Bob I got to tell him everything about what I've been dealing with my depression and about my smoking, and I just broke down. He told me one thing, that if you really want to get this off your chest, you have to give it all to God. And I did that night. I just broke down and I was filled with God's love again. And so that was about in June. So the summer went on and I still continued to smoke and stuff and party. I lost sight of what God's purpose was for me, and I was becoming my own person and without God. August came and my dad invited me to his church because this guy was talking. He was prophesizer. A prophesizer is somebody that prophesies about like somebody's future that God is telling him at that moment. And the guy was like, God is going to do so much in your life. You're just like at a standstill with God, and you're about to take off. And me being only about 15 and smoking, I was like, this doesn't even make sense. I'm not even with God. I'm right now. And I didn't really understand it at the time. So during basketball season, it was a Saturday practice, and I come down from a rebound, and I felt the sharp pain in my knee again. And I figured out a few days later I tore my meniscus, and that put me out for another 4 months. And that was another struggle that I had to deal with, because I was like, why is God doing this to me again? I dealt with this once before, and it's not fun doing this over and over again. So I didn't really understand, because I was 16 smoking pot. After school that year, camp was right around the corner, and I was excited to get back with God and connect with Him each day. We left, and it was an amazing experience. God really showed me who I was through Him during that time. One day during worship, Andrew was just outside talking to Mitch, crying, and I go up to him and just ask him what is wrong. And he starts telling me stuff, and so I pray over him. I see Christian, I said, come here, help me pray over Andrew. And it was just an amazing time, because we all started to break down crying and really share what was struggling on in our life. It was just an amazing time that God shared His love through each one of us during that time. The time at NTS was amazing. It really set me on fire with God. I wanted to serve Him more and more when I got home. I currently was dating this girl at this time, and she wasn't really into God. She was more into partying and doing like worldly stuff. So I eventually started getting back into drugs again and drinking and stuff like that. And so that pushed me even further away from God. So a week before school started, there was about 3 parties, and I attended all of them. And each night I got drunk and high, and I really messed up during that weekend. And I felt very ashamed the next few days after. So it got my addiction really bad. I started smoking about every day, about 2 to 4 times a day. And I started really not to care about what was going on in my life. During that time, I started to go into practice high, games high, not really caring, because I just don't know why. I got addicted to a drug, and it was not a good time for me. So about 2 months, about like last month, I had to get another knee surgery, as you can see, and that was just a huge wall that I ran into that God put in front of me. He basically told me, wake up and stop doing what you're doing and start following me again. And that really hit me, because I've fallen off the path so far that I pushed away my parents even more. They kept on saying that I'm wasting my money and I'm going to end up in a bad place since I keep on doing this. And so one day I was working on my testimony, and I was just going through memories of camp and stuff. And that moment when Bob and I were praying, and the 20 people who surrounded us, God's love just hit me hard and basically told me that I'm making the wrong choice with going to college. And so I called Bob after that, and he basically said, you're struggling with something. And I was like, yes. And I'm struggling with what choice I should go to college. It was like, whatever you feel like God is telling you, you have to do it. You got to take that huge leap of faith and just trust in Him. I know it's going to be hard and stuff, but God is going to get you there no matter what. So I called my dad after I hung up with Bob, and was like, I'm not making the right choice with going to Chatham and studying accounting, and I want to go to Owen and study pastoral ministry and finance. And my dad was unsure at first, but then I explained, like, I gotta take this huge leap in faith and just trust in God during this moment and really, truly believe in God that He will get me there. So he told me to call my pastor at my dad's church, and his pastor met about a month ago, just talked things over because I was still struggling with smoking during that time, and he was helping me during that. And I called him, and he was like, from that very moment, God told me that you were making the wrong choice. I was just waiting for him to tell you that you were making the wrong choice. And so that was clearance that I'm going to go to Hohen and study youth ministry, or not youth ministry, pastoral ministry and finance. So that was clearance of what my purpose is and what God wants to do in my life. So I'm asking each one of you tonight to really search what your purpose is, and God has a plan for each one of you, and He loves you. So one verse that has always stuck for me out throughout this time is Matthew 18:12 through 14. Jesus tells His disciples during this time, "What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them escapes, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go look for that wandered off? And he finds it. Truly it tells you, he is happier than that one sheep about the 99 that wandered off. In the same way, your Father is in heaven. He is not willing to let one of us fall away during any of the times." This was basically me, that one sheep that wandered off from the pack of the 99. And God will always find you no matter how far you wander off the path. He will always love you no matter what, and always find a way to bring you back on the right path. And He will always love you no matter what, and show you your purpose. God will show you what your purpose, what you're worth, and He will always be the light in the darkness no matter what. And that's my testimony.